Long construction story for voiceover. Me name is Sophie. And this story started with something very simple. A dream. For years, I imagined what it would feel like to build a home from the ground up. Not just buy one. Not just move into a place that someone else designed. I wanted something that felt like us. A place that would reflect every choice, every memory, every little detail we cared about. At first, it felt impossible. We spent months driving around different neighborhoods, stopping at empty lots, standing in the middle of open land, and trying to imagine a future there. Some places were too crowded, some were too far away, some looked beautiful in pictures but felt wrong the moment we arrived. Then one afternoon, we found it. It was just an empty piece of land with wild grass, dirt, a few old trees, and a view of the sunset in the distance. There was nothing special about it to anyone else. But the second we stood there, we both felt it. This was the place. I remember standing there quietly, looking around, imagining where the driveway would be, where the front door would sit, where the kitchen windows would face. I could almost picture the backyard lights glowing at night and hear music playing on the patio. That was the first moment our dream became real. After we bought the lot, the planning began, and honestly, that part was much harder than I expected. At first, it sounded exciting. We were going to design our own house. But once we sat down with floor plans, measurements, and endless choices, it became overwhelming very quickly. Every room mattered. We spent hours deciding where the living room should be, how big the kitchen island should be, how many windows we wanted, where the stairs would go, and what kind of layout would make the house feel open and warm. Some nights we stayed up until 2 in the morning looking at inspiration photos, saving ideas, comparing materials, arguing over paint colors, cabinet styles, countertops, flooring, and lighting. I wanted the house to feel modern, bright, and calm. I imagined soft neutral colors, warm wood, natural stone, black details, large windows, and soft lighting everywhere. I wanted every room to feel peaceful and comfortable, but still elegant. There were moments when it felt exciting, and there were moments when it felt exhausting. Sometimes I would think, why is choosing a faucet so stressful? Because when you build a home from scratch, every tiny detail suddenly feels important. Then construction started. The first day was emotional. We stood there watching machines dig into the ground where our future home would be. At that point, there were no walls, no rooms, no roof, just dirt, noise, and workers moving around. It was hard to imagine that one day this empty construction site would become the place where we would wake up every morning. The foundation came first, then the framing. Slowly, wooden beams started creating the shape of the house. Suddenly, we could walk through the future kitchen, stand in the future bedroom, and see where the windows would be, even though there were no walls yet. I could already imagine where the couch would go, where the dining table would be, and where we would sit together in the evenings. That part was magical. But construction was not easy. There were delays. There were days when it rained nonstop. There were mistakes that had to be fixed. Materials arrived late. Some things were more expensive than we expected. There were days when we felt stressed, frustrated, and completely overwhelmed. I remember one week when everything seemed to go wrong. At the same time, the flooring we wanted was out of stock. The tile delivery was delayed. A wall had to be rebuilt because the measurements were wrong, and suddenly, the timeline we had in our heads started falling apart. There were moments when I sat in the car outside the construction site and wondered if we had made a huge mistake. Building a house is exciting, but it also tests your patience in ways you never expect. Still, every time we visited the site, something new had changed. One week there were walls, the next week there was a roof. Then came the windows, and suddenly, the house started feeling real. One of my favorite moments was when the drywall went up. For the first time, the rooms actually looked like rooms. The kitchen looked like a kitchen. The hallway looked like a hallway. The bathrooms looked like bathrooms. Everything finally had shape. After that came the part I had been waiting for the most, the interior finishes. This was when everything started coming to life. We chose warm beige tiles for the bathroom, soft wood cabinets, black fixtures, modern mirrors, and beautiful lighting. I spent so much time choosing details. The exact shade of paint, the perfect pendant lights, the cabinet handles, the faucets, the shower glass, the countertops, the flooring. I wanted everything to feel clean, modern, and timeless. One of the rooms I cared about most was the bathroom. At the beginning, it was just exposed pipes, unfinished walls, dust, tools, and construction materials everywhere. It looked cold, messy, and impossible to imagine, but little by little, it transformed. First came the walls, then the ceiling, then the tile, then the lighting, then the shower glass, then the vanity, and one day, I walked in and saw the finished bathroom for the first time. The soft lights reflected on the walls, the glass shower looked elegant, the warm wood vanity made the space feel calm and cozy. It felt like something out of a luxury hotel, and I couldn't believe that it was ours. That was one of the first moments when I realized we were almost done. As the final weeks passed, furniture arrived, the couches were delivered, the dining table was assembled, the rugs went down, the curtains went up, plants, candles, books, pillows, and decorations slowly filled the empty rooms. The house finally stopped looking like a project and started feeling like a home. Then came the final day, the day when there were no more workers, and no more tools, and no more dust, and no more boxes, just us. I remember standing in the middle of the living room in complete silence. The sunlight was coming through the windows, the floors were clean, the lights were glowing, everything smelled new. I walked from room to room slowly, touching the walls, looking at every detail, remembering how long it had taken to get there. I thought about the empty lot, I thought about the sketches, the plans, the late nights, the stress, the arguments, the delays, the decisions, the dust, and the endless work. And suddenly, I felt emotional, because this house was more than just walls and furniture. It was a memory of everything we had built together. Every room held a piece of our story. The kitchen where we would drink coffee in the mornings, the living room where we would spend holidays, the bedroom where we would end every day, the bathroom that started as exposed pipes and construction dust but became one of the most beautiful rooms in the house. When people see a finished home, they usually only see the result. They see the paint, the furniture, the lights, and the decor, but they do not see the months of work behind it. They do not see the stress, the waiting, the uncertainty, and the effort. And maybe that is why the finished result feels so special, because you know exactly what it took to get there. Now, every time I walk through the house, I still stop sometimes and look around. Not because something needs to be fixed, not because I am planning the next project, but because I still cannot believe we did it. We turned an empty piece of land into a home, and there is no better feeling than that.